welcome back to the show. With today's episode being all about influences, I have a question for you. And that question is, who do you surround yourself with? And hopefully that's a good thought-provoking question, because I had a great conversation with a really good friend of mine the other day. She happens also to be a member of the Freedom Club, which is the club that we run. And we started having a chat about finance and how we'd both always been really good with money, how we'd been able to handle money well, and we were talking about parental influences and how our mums had taught us to be careful with money, to save money, to budget well, etc., and that we both had that work ethic about just getting out there and doing stuff and getting on with it and making our own money and being responsible with it, etc. And that was a really good start in life. And interestingly, the conversation went along the lines of how she'd always been able to channel her energies into saving hard, budgeting well, buying herself a really good home for her children, etc. And yet she found it hard to take a risk. She hadn't had any influences on that in that respect. So when it came to thinking about being a bit more adventurous with her money and taking steps towards being able to really potentially build wealth for herself, those influences weren't there in her life because she'd surrounded herself with obviously colleagues and friends who were in a similar position to herself. And so the conversations just weren't there to develop that side of herself. And so we were talking about the impact that the Freedom Club had on her. And she now feels, having been in the club for a good couple of years, that she is feeling much more comfortable with taking small risks here and there, educated and considered and well thought out levels of risk, and how those are really starting to pay off for her. Whereas before it would just be a question of putting the money in the bank or considering maybe paying her mortgage off or etc. So she now has a very clear vision, a very good idea of where she wants to be in 5 years' time, which is really exciting because she can actually see this happening now. The movement that has happened in her world in terms of the additional money she's now making and the different arenas and areas that she's placing her money and seeing changes and starting to build that wealth for herself and her family is really exciting. And so it just made me think about the influences in our lives and how the conversations we have and the people that we surround ourselves with have such a big impact on our lives. And if we can choose carefully who we surround ourselves with and the types of communication and conversations we have, how our mindsets can shift as a result of that, just as it has for my friend, and seeing opportunities where she just hadn't seen them before and not being able to see them before because she wasn't in that space. So it's absolutely fascinating if you really think about this. And another interesting thing that's come into my world recently is watching youngsters. Now, I've worked with children in the past. I've worked with children from 5 up to 18 years old, and I have my own son. And I obviously have spent time with him and seen him with his friends and how they, how they've grown and developed and nurtured with each other and the influences they've had with each other. So watching that happen right in front of my eyes, and anyone who's a parent or who has regular contact with children will know this for themselves, that you can see exactly how youngsters absorb the atmosphere and the environment that they're in like a sponge. And so watching how they are influenced by their peers is absolutely fascinating. Because sometimes it takes a break in a friendship, or it takes something quite radical to happen for, or some sort of experience, some sort of not so great experience in life, for them to kind of shake them out of a behaviour or a pattern of thinking that they had, and then they can take stock and go, oh crikey, do I actually really want to carry on along this vein, or do I want to reset and kind of come back to myself and actually think, okay, how do I want to be, and what do I want to be doing with my life? Because certain influences can drag you down. Certain influences can be disruptive or negative upon you, and it's up to you to really see that and make the choice for yourself. So if we could just see how our beliefs and our opinions and our experiences and outcomes are shaped and formed from an outsider's perspective, then we would realise pretty quickly that our version of this world has been largely influenced by those around us. And so if we can actually take stock and put ourselves into the position of that observer role, as if we were somebody else looking at our life, seeing who we were being influenced by, the circumstances and the situations we were being influenced by, then we could actually go, okay, do I want to carry on being influenced in this way, or do I think that I need to make some shifts or changes, or stop certain influences, etc., etc. So it really is, it boils down to a choice, and we have to choose wisely for ourselves, because if we don't choose wisely, then we could end up perhaps in a situation that we really don't want to be in. So as the saying goes, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends and the people that you associate yourself with. And that is super, super important. Now, I've been extremely fortunate with my family. I have had really great influences, especially with my parents and some other people who are very close with me, obviously my husband and now my son, and some very close friends. I'm very fortunate to have the types of influences that I have. Particularly those close to me, but I know that there are others who are not as fortunate with their family and have had all sorts of interesting and complicated influences in their lives. And so what I would say about that is that you can either choose to maybe be a victim to those influences, or you can make a different choice. You can become conscious of what's happened, what you'd like to change, and make a choice, and choose who you surround yourself with in terms of being able to improve your world or to help you shift in a way that you would like to shift. And so it's just super important who you choose to surround yourself with. That's the main message for today. I mean, I've come to recognize this over the years, that the reason that I am able to coach people in this way and to talk to people and hopefully inspire people to make certain shifts in their lives is because of the multitude of various businesses and entrepreneurial groups and situations I have found myself in and kind of put myself in over the course of the last 20 years, all of which have helped me to grow into the person that I am now and to have the life that we have today. And so that is really the most important point that I want to put across today, is to not only put yourself into the position and the environments and the situations that you want to be in, whether that's work, whether that's family, whether that's friends, you have to choose the type of people that you want to surround yourself with. And it's about having those nurturing, developing conversations. And sometimes those conversations could be quite hard. I'm not saying this is all a bed of roses or anything, but it's about having the tough conversations. And sometimes the tough conversations can help you grow even more than the inspiring conversations can, because it gets into the nitty-gritty of what really makes you tick and what really is going to help you fulfill your potential. I have regular conversations with a very good friend of mine, Jay Hastings, and in fact we have put a few episodes out there on YouTube. I think you'll probably be able to find it on my channel, my YouTube channel, the YouTube Shorts with Jay Hastings, and certainly on his channel as well. We've had some interesting conversations about the world at large. We have very similar thoughts about certain things, and so we've come together and we've had conversations that have just kind of been spontaneous and on the spur of the moment about what's the biggest topic on our minds at that particular point. And the types of conversations also that we have within the Freedom Club, and I'm very fortunate enough to have with my own husband, is they're just great, because it's just the type of conversation that you need to have in order to explore yourself and explore who you really are and what's most important to you. And in life, it can be quite hard to find someone or a group of people that you can have these types of conversation with, and that is exactly why the Freedom Club exists. So just a little bit of an insight there as to maybe giving you a bit of an idea or a bit more thought as to the type of people that you surround yourself with and how that can help you in your life situation. So if you've enjoyed the content from today's show, again, I'd really appreciate it if you can give it a bit of a like, a bit of a thumbs up, a bit of a review. Some sort of feedback would be absolutely awesome. I'm always really appreciating that. So thanks again for listening in, and let me know how you get on with the influences in your world. Any comments on that? Always much appreciated. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode.